Hi everyone, it's Reset Over Farm. I'm just out on the farm today in the lovely snowy weather. It's a bit of a surprise to wake up to this morning. The kids were quite excited. Um, just a quick one on the budget and what farmers are doing in London today. Just to put a bit of perspective on it and feelings from a fellow farmer. Although sometimes I can consider myself not quite a proper farmer because we've got all this other crazy stuff going on like wedding barns and farm shops and farm parks. But we do some farming. Obviously, we saw lots of pumpkin picking recently. That's all our own pumpkins. We grow those. The budget does have an impact on us in many ways. But the reason farmers are sort of protesting today is because of the change to inheritance tax rules, and it's quite technical um, because there was lots of reliefs and things on that 40% inheritance tax that you have to pay on a value of assets over a certain amount when someone dies. And it has quite a big impact on farming because farmers are generally, as the age old saying is, asset rich and cash poor. So you have a huge amount of assets in form of land. You've got massive tractors generally if you're an arable farmer, a big milking parlour if you're dairy, all worth many hundreds of thousands of pounds, if not millions. And that is all taxed upon the death of the owner. It previously was the granddad sadly dies, the land and the assets can be passed on to the son or the daughter or whatever without any real inheritance tax charges, anything significant. And now it has been changed. Within 18 months, it's going to be uh, the base figure is 40%, but with relief, it's going to be 20% over the value of roughly 3 million. Oh, 3 million sounds flipping out. That's a huge amount of money. Well, it's not in terms of farmland, and that's the tricky thing, and farming kit as well. And it within 18 months for that sort of thing to happen is quite significant, especially with how long it takes to ratify things with solicitors and what have you when you're writing up legal documents to pass on a farm or what have you to offspring. So I'm trying to think about how to compare it and make it a bit more relatable because even millions of pounds worth of kit and millions of pounds worth of farmland, it's not relatable to most people, is it? It's not realistic. How can you? It's not. It's surely there must be a way to make it pay. Well, no, not in traditional farming. No, generally not, because you make a very small amount of money out of the land. Most business owners, if you're a proper true businessman making widgets for beer cans or something like that, would be absolutely aghast at the amount of money or capital that's tied up in a farm and the poor amount of returns that you get from it. It's a crazy business to be in, and people who are not familiar with farms often look at the balance sheets and go, "What on earth is going on here? This is ridiculous. The returns are horrendous. This is a terrible business." Uh, that's just the way farming has always been, and that's why the relief was so generous. So if you're trying to put it into perspective, I guess, so imagine your grandfather bought a council house off the council years ago, paid for it out of his own money, worked hard, and his son started the plumbing business, fixing people's houses nearby. And then the grandson joined in. They ended up, and the grandfather made a bit of money and was able to buy another council house for the son and the grandson to live in. So coming fast forward a fair few years, the grandfather's now sort of retired and is still the owner of all of those things. So the son's the main person in the business, making everything work. The grandson's effectively the apprentice, doing lots of stuff as well. And the grandfather dies. If it was in the farming world, and for say the example, those two council houses are worth, I don't know, $250,000 each, and all of their vans and everything are all parked outside, rounded up. They've turned one of the garages, or I say the garage, turned one of the sheds into sort of storeroom for all the plumbing kit. And the turnover of that plumbing business was equivalent to what a farmer would be. Say you've got £500,000 plus all the vans plus everything worth of assets, and you're turning over 50 grand, making profit of 5, for example. It's very round numbers. It's an example. How are you going to pay 20% of 500,000 plus all of the kit, you're not going to be able to pay it on that profit that's remaining from that plumbing business. So all of your grandfather's hard work was built up all over these years. It's just gone. You've got to sell it all. You've got to sell. You've got to make people redundant. Staff have got to leave. You've got to sell the vans, all the plumbing stuff. You've got to sell it to pay this tax. And you think that's the kind of position that farmers are in. You're selling something that's been built up over several generations and affecting many people to pay a tax. This doesn't seem right. Everyone should pay tax. That's how the country works. But it shouldn't break people. We shouldn't break everyone. And I think that's the big message from farmers. Is this is just a bit over the top. It's a little bit ill thought out. The figures that have been quoted from sort of Reeves and others are stretched. They're not consistent, and that just makes everyone question them and their validity. DEFRA, even the internal government agency or ministry, have said this is a little bit extreme. We think you should reconsider, and Reeves has said no. So that's why farmers are marching today. There's several other things in that budget that also have impact on farmers and also businesses too. As James Dyson's written a big piece in one of the papers about it. It's going to have a big impact on many people. The supermarkets, there's pieces in the BBC today if you read it. It'll affect us as well. The farm shop significantly. As the supermarkets say, retail is a low margin business. You don't make very many percentages of profit. Turn over a lot of money, not very profitable. Tesco's and Sainsbury's make a lot of money by turning over horrendous amounts of money. It's huge and scary figures. They make a very small percentage of profit. So any change that affects that that comes in quickly has a big impact. Certainly for us, we're going to be having to put up prices in the shop. We're already looking at some of our prices and going, flipping it, that's going to have to go up a lot, and to make this work. And even as we're changing the price signs, we're thinking, that's a lot of money, and we get reviews left by people saying as much. But the alternative is to shut the doors, and that doesn't seem right either. Fire all the staff, and where would that wouldn't be much fun in its own right. So we're just going to have to work through it and hope people are supportive and continue shopping with us. But I suspect that Sainsbury's will be looking at it, and Tesco's will be looking at it two-pronged. How can we reduce staff hours and increase prices to maintain the profit? Because profit isn't a dirty word. Profit is what keeps businesses going, keeps businesses innovating, getting new things for customers. It's important. It should be celebrated and be exciting, especially if you're a business person yourself or no one. So it's been a big budget. It's been a lot of thought for us. It's going to have an impact on us. I think we'll be able to mitigate it. The inheritance tax, we've already been planning this sort of thing. So it's more a case of, well, what do we need to change in our plans to go forward? There are certain scenarios that it could really backfire on us. I think we're going to have to take insurance out, which is going to be another cost, which is going to have to be passed on to customers. But yeah, that's in a 9-minute, it says on my phone, ramble. A little bit of what's going on with farmers in London today, if you see it on the news, and how it's affecting us here, and a little bit on the budget. So there's a little bit of a summary there. Fire any comments below. I'll try and respond to them. Please keep it clean. If you've got a genuine question, please try and word it as concisely as you can, so I can respond to it. As I can't. In 9 minutes, there's only so much I can cover, and I've probably glossed over some detail that means that some facts don't quite leap out as obviously as they would do to anyone who's living and breathing this every day. But yeah, please jump on the comments and leave some questions below. I'll try and get back to you. Thanks very much for your time. If you've watched all the way to the end, really appreciate it on this very magical wintry day. Enjoy the rest of November, and I'll speak to you soon.